He's not gonna.
I'm not.
No, I feel like I need a moment. I just feel like I just need a moment for myself, man.
You want us to step out?
Just let me know when.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'm just checking.
Jules, I'm right here.
I'll keep you
I'm
laying
right
down.
here.
You want me to start now?
I'm ready.
Okay, kiddo.
Jules. You're gonna be okay, baby. I'm gonna miss you. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Oh God, oh God, no, no. My baby. I love you, I love you, I love you, oh my God.
Now they keep their tongue out like that, and his eyes are always gonna stay open.
Is he gone?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Do we have a little towel to cover his back in?
I'm so sorry.
There you go.
I'm so sorry you go through
Now they get to.
Just like a normal.
Everything's the same. Okay, so please just make sure you don't actually accidentally move him off the table. Okay, so if you want to spend some time with him, you can. When you're ready, you walk out the door, just turn the light on. That's how they'll know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Kathleen Harrod, your conscious mind coach. I do believe elevation is empowerment. And I believe that until we can come to a place where we accept the level of hatred and the continuation of hatred, and we are ready to face that these things will continue to happen to us, that they will continue to execute Black men, Black women, Black children, that they will continue to systemically have prejudice and discrimination and racism against us from the courtroom to the workplace. These things will exist. If we are not ready to acknowledge the fact that nothing really has changed, although many things have changed, they created affirmative action. They created laws within discrimination so we can bring a claim to court. But we still haven't looked at the fact that they did have to create laws and that these laws still need to exist, because that is how prevalent, that is how strong, that is how present racism is. Racism is not something that has gone away. Racism is something that has been more redefined, reinvented, than anything else in America. So if we can deal with that, if we can face that, if we can accept that, I think that's better than pretending or lacking the knowledge to understand that these things do exist. Whenever you have a young man who is arrested after pointing a gun at officers, having a weapon, shooting that weapon, pointing that weapon, having just been noted and said to be a suspect in a heinous crime, where you have witnesses who saw him pull the trigger, saw him shed blood, saw him kill people. And because he's white, the police show up and they still manage to simply arrest him. And one day he will face court and one day he will face charges. And then you have another scenario where a black man is suspected to possibly be engaged in a felonious robbery, which is not even a robbery by any means, stretch, or context. And you have fake police officers who hunt him down, call a friend who then films it and has a gun himself to participate in the activity. Has a neighbor who has said, if you see anything, you have free will to execute righteousness or judgment, to have a police department, a DA, to back that up. That is a far, far stretch, guys, from racial equality. And I don't want to be the one to tell the story again, because that would simply put me in a place where I'm no better than Candace Owens. And so that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is to spark your conscious mind, to initiate a thought within you that you never dreamt to think of before. Simply that these people don't like us. They don't like your brown skin. It's nothing that you've done. It's a creative pattern that they've made, that they will continue to oppress you. And we don't need to fit in, and we don't even need them to like us, but we don't need them to harm us. And there's the difference, because I cannot like you for whatever reason. But the day I choose to bring harm to you because of that, that's racism. And that's what we need to fight against. So how do we fight against racism? First, look at this clip. In less than 16 seconds, if you remove the pause, this officer arrived, shot, and killed a black man. From here, I could literally go down the list of the number of officers who arrived at the scene, and within less than 10 seconds, or I think it was 7 seconds in the case of Tamir Rice. I could tell you that in the case of Mike Brown, I think it was less than 30 seconds. I mean, it doesn't matter the seconds. It matters that there are no laws, that there are no changes, that there are no perceived notions to protect black men and give them as equal rights as white men. That's what matters. It matters that somehow in America, they still think it's okay. In fact, they show us that they feel like they can get away with it to consistently kill black men, black women, black children. Again, I say, there are absolutely no laws changed on the book that would affect the way that police officers are able to engage with black people. There are no consequences in terms of if someone ends up dead within 30 seconds, within a minute of you arriving, you will lose your pension. You will lose your job. You will lose X, Y, and Z. If the person is unarmed, you will lose your pension. You will lose your job. You will lose your license and not be able to be a police officer, security officer, or not able to carry a gun for the rest of your life. And what I'm saying to you is that that's where we come in. We facilitate, organize, and we put the mandate in place, the laws in place that help protect us. How do we do that? Seems like a mission impossible, right? Seems like these people should know not to kill us. Like they should know by now that we're equals. Well, step into their mindset. If you don't step into their mindset and see how they see you, you will continue to expect for them to do things for you that they're simply not going to do. And so you have to get to the place where you do the things that are necessary to bring you to equal and fair treatment. And that includes changing the laws, not just hiring a lawyer after the fact. But what are the steps you take to change the law? So here's a look at how they see you. And this is you, black educated. This is you with the Mercedes. This is you with the house in the hills. It doesn't matter. Listen up.
But I must tell you, as a former prosecutor, I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of police officers around this country who really think like that. When they refer to black and brown defendants or people being arrested, they refer to them as dogs, mopes, perps, inhumane terms that now, if they say that in the confines of the complaint office of the DA's office, what do you think they say and do and feel and how they perceive people of color in the public where...
Okay, we're here, right? They care less about us than a dog, than an animal. And look, I've owned dogs. I've had dogs, loved my dogs, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how they see us. We are less valuable than an animal. They call us animals. This is a reputable man making this comment. This is on a Roland Martin. You can see the title of it. You can go to YouTube and watch it yourself. There's a lady in a car. That's what the video is all about. The officer says, well, you're not black. We only kill black people. And if you go watch the video, Roland Martin, who I totally support, totally love, there's the full video there and you can watch the entire video. You need to, as a matter of fact, because that will wake up your conscious mind. So we can stop living in this make-believe world where we are a part of the United States and everything is great, because it's not. So as you're having your conscious mind awaken, there are two things I want you to think about. Number one is you're black and you're intelligent. That's number one. Number one is you are black and you are intelligent. You don't have to fear. You don't have to register this as a low moment. You don't have to register this in your mind as, oh my God, we'll never be accepted. Oh my God, we will never be equal. Oh my God. It's not that. Because we have the power to change any and everything. But number two is what I really want you to think about. Are we more entertained than we are educated? And when I say educated, I don't mean just you went to Harvard and you have a degree, or you went to some college somewhere and you have a degree, or even whether you have a degree or not. What I'm saying is that there's that type of academic education, and then there's another education. where we are racially educated, where we are educated in raceonomics, if you will, because that's a great divide. And the list could go on about all the things that I could tell you where we are divided as races. From economics to imprisonment, we are divided. Favor is given to them. I know for a fact a case involving a relative right now concerning drugs, where the drug dealer moved from Florida to another state and they followed him. He then started a whole new distribution team. They arrested all of the black people that got involved with the drug situation. The man who moved from Florida to the new city, to the new state, which they claim in documents that I saw from the court that they followed, they claimed that this same man was untouchable. And even all the white boys, not boys, but men, all the, and the black boys, I could say, because they were so young, all of the whites were given leniency. And all the blacks were sentenced 20 years behind bars. What I want you to know is you're intelligent. You don't have to keep hiding behind the fact that you know better, that you know something is off. From the prison pipeline to being cheated when we're given loans that have high interest or given no loans at all, to our school systems that rob us of equality. There is so much racism practiced in America that it's going to take us being educated to unfold all the ugliness that exists in America. But here's the thing, we can do it. 1 by 1, 20 by 20, 100 by 100, 1,000 by 1,000. We can do it. And you begin by being knowledgeable, because elevation is your empowerment. That's your empowerment. Nothing's going to change if you're just being entertained. And they came along and they changed our world in ways that we never even saw coming, because they have us so hooked on entertainment. But you see what a dividing line is. When the pandemic hit, we were stuck on the other side, still out there in the rat race, trying to be essential workers. Whereas they're at home on their laptops, still doing their job, out of harm's way. And we're in the hospital dying. If you don't wake up your conscious mind, and I know somebody got to work. I know it's some white people who are essential workers. But we're talking about numbers here. When Trump stands up to talk, you know what he talks about more than anything? Numbers. You know why he talks about numbers? Because numbers matter. When 72% of those dying from coronavirus is black people, those are numbers you need to think about. When 72% of our homes are one-parent homes, those are numbers. When the prison system has more blacks than whites, those are numbers. And we only represent 16% of the population, numbers. Those are things we need to look at. And guess what? Believe it or not, there's a correlation. There's a correlation between all of those numbers and racism, whether we're talking about schools, whether we're talking about prison, whether we're talking about home loans, whether we're talking about getting a loan, whether we're talking about financing a car, financing a home, whether we're talking about being able to enroll in school and pay our tuition. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. It all involves numbers, and those numbers all point back to racism. and systemic oppression. When it comes to our people being arrested, you're looking at racial profiling. Those are numbers. When it comes to your city, your county, your state, paying money out for police brutality and police conduct. Those are numbers. You can look at any of these numbers. All of these numbers are going to be tied back to one thing, and that is racism. And so we have to make a decision. And that decision is, I don't want to be entertained. I want to be educated. I want to have a conscious mind. I want to know what's going on. I want to know why my son had to show up to court and your son, who is white, didn't even get a court date for the same crime. I want to know why all we are left with is a 20-year sentence. I want to know why. I want to know why. I want to know why. You should want to know why. You should want to know. Because when you have that level of a conscious mind, you will elevate yourself into being a leader. A lot of people will be like, a leader? I'm not trying to be Martin Luther King. I'm not trying to be Malcolm X. Well, you're sitting there waiting on someone who's not going to come and save you and rescue you. You've got to learn to fight your own fight. You've got to learn to fight for your son before he's a victim, for your daughter before she's a victim, for your uncle, for your aunt, for your granny, like the granny that got arrested, I think it was in Ohio, where they kicked in the door and all kinds of nonsense, hurting, harming our elderly, down to our children, down to Brianna in Kentucky, Ahmaud in Georgia, in Brunswick, Sean Reed. And I hate to hear black people make comments, make ignorant comments like, well, he shouldn't have had a gun. Well, if he would have did this. Well, if she would have. Well, the reason why. Well, if they wouldn't have been driving. All he had to do was, if you comply. Well, let me tell you something. There are white people who do the same and worse, who will never, ever, ever get shot. They cuss police officers out, and they never get police brutality executed or exacted upon them. Where is your conscious mind? Where is your conscious mind? Where is your conscious mind? And the worst thing they did for us. And I was watching Ice Cube on Instagram the other day, and I had to turn it off. And you know why? Because, I don't blame him or them, because they didn't understand the full scope of what was going on at the time. But early on, Ice Cube and all of them, they had this powerful message, and they was like, F the police and this, that, and the third and all of that. And it was building our conscious mind, and we were really thinking about, hey, we are being mistreated. Hey, they do stop us. Hey, they do racially profile. Hey, they do treat us wrong in the courtroom. Hey, they are treating us different. But we switched to entertainment. We switched to booties and twerking and rapping about how bad our lives was, which are a direct effect of racism. And we got on the money train, but we lost the conscious effort. And that has cost us more lives. And like I said, I'm not putting this all on them. All I'm saying is, for us at this point in time, forget some entertainment. We need to exist. And we not only need to exist, but we have a right to exist and expound and expand and to be wealthy by comparison. And it's going to take a level of intelligence. It's going to take a level of a conscious mind that we've never had before. I love the fact that we have social media now, and we're able to share messages and influence and power and strategies more quickly than ever before. It's amazing to me that Martin Luther King was fighting for the rights of people in Memphis and people all over the world didn't even know. It's amazing to me that Malcolm X was doing all the work that he was doing, Louis Farrakhan, whoever out there doing the work. And guess what? People didn't even know. We didn't have TV like that. We didn't have phones, a lot of us. But now we have social media. And I'll be doggone if we don't catch fire. If we don't send this message to friends and families, if we don't get on board with people like Shaun King, Roland Martin, so many people out here who are doing the work. Guys, there are people, the NAACP, the Poor People's Movement by Reverend Barber, the Poor People's Campaign. They're having a big virtual meeting June the 20th of 2020. You should be there. Register now. Follow Roland Martin. Don't listen to P. Diddy, who's saying he's holding the black people's vote. Our vote cannot be held. I appreciate P. Diddy trying to be a part of the work, but maybe you need to get under the umbrella of Reverend Barber or Roland Martin or some of these other prolific people out here who are doing the work to understand we can't hold a vote. We need to give a vote. For the right people, we need to partner up with our local politicians, our local judges to make changes in our community. We can't wait to do that. We need to do that now. When I went to a judges forum in my local community here in Little Rock, Arkansas, the judges said, and this is recent, the judges said, we have a meth problem. And even though meth is a 99.9%, I'm throwing that number out there, meth is like a white people problem. He said we still found ourselves arresting majority of black people, kicking down the doors of black homes. It's time to elevate your conscious mind and get involved. We don't need to pay for the funerals. We don't need to pay a lawyer after someone is dead. We need to become proactive. And while we're doing those things, while we're donating to lawyers to represent those who have passed away due to racism, while we are doing those things, at the same time, we need to becoming conscious of the things we need to do to actually stop those things from happening. Like putting in place a law where officers are not allowed to engage with black people, period, unless they see a crime in motion. And if you want to learn more, go follow Dr. Howard Penderhughes and Paul Burt, I believe his last name is, from the University of California, if I'm not mistaken. Things I've spoke about. So if you go to my Facebook page and put in Howard Penderhughes, you'll see something I put on Facebook about it. I put the links to the video up where he talks about 40% of the incarcerated haven't even done anything violent, and these people are doing violent sentences. It's violence against a person when they haven't done anything violent, and you give them 20 years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years in prison. That's violence. But we don't know what's going on. And until we figure that part out, until we get on that train, we're really not fighting for our rights and equality. We're really still just playing catch up to a system we don't even understand. So this is your conscious coach speaking to you today, inviting you into the real world, because you don't live in the real world, where you will know what actions to take. Yes, support Shaun King, Roland Martin, support all of them, but you've got to become proactive yourself in order for things to change. And this is just the beginning.